I sort of stumbled into health coaching. It certainly wasn't like anything that I thought I would ever be doing. And you take a class in school because you have to, or it's a part of the curriculum. And then you find out, well, this is actually kind of cool. So that's how I started with, I believe it was health coaching techniques. That's your first class, Karen. I think it was techniques.
Techniques
And
is
then
the
there's
second one. The
the
first one
second
is
one.
concepts and skills. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So I did the first class and then I did the second class. And, I was probably, I'm going to just be honest here and say I was probably not the best student in any of those classes because part of that is really, I think, communicating and breaking your own like mindset of things down. Like you have to do your own work. And I really was one of those people that just did not want to talk about myself. I didn't want to like really engage in that way or let anybody into my life just because I was doing my thing. I had ways I was doing, and nobody knew better than me. Like I had it, boom, done. Um, so it was pretty horrible that way. And one day, one of our classmates, her name was Sarah, she says, "Why are you even here then?" Which is a really good thing to ask, actually, even though it sounds a little funky. It's like, what? Why am I here? And then I asked myself the question, why am I here? Because not only am I taking a class, but I want to learn something. And so just somebody saying that to me sort of brought me out of my own shell. And after that, but I can say that honestly, everything that I know now, I owe to Karen. Um, like Karen completely helped me just change myself and my views on things and help me open up to kind of receive better in the universe. And I will always be grateful to Karen for that. Um, so if you are planning on taking classes with Karen or you haven't yet or you're going through, just know that you have one of the most awesome people ever as your professor and mentor. So just wanted to say that and always thank you, Karen. You've always been there to hear me out whenever I've had something going on or, just in class, you kind of look through hard shell of me and saw what was beneath and helped me bring it out. So thank you. Um, so right now I own my own business. I am a personal trainer and I help people lose weight. I use health coaching to help them uh, find find that part of them that they're looking for, whether they're looking to be strong on the inside, mentally, anything like that. Like that is what I do. I help them find their own answers because as coaches, of course, we do not tell people what they need to do. We ask the questions to get them thinking about themselves and how they can help themselves into a better lifestyle. And so, personal trainer, I'm also a CDC approved diabetes prevention educator. And that's very recent for me. I wasn't doing that even 6 months ago, but I saw another coach, trainer who teaches Zumba, and that was kind of something that she was into. And I thought, hey, that's really cool. That's something that I'd like to do. So I approached the CDC about it and took one of their required courses at Temple University in, I believe it's Philadelphia, and went through everything, the modules, did the exit interview, and here I am doing that. I'm a silver sneakers provider, so that is basically fitness for older adults, any older adult fitness, people with conditions, anything like that. And I teach like yoga and Tai Chi and regular fitness techniques, but I also teach things. I teach traditional exercise in a non-traditional way. So if somebody's looking to do a squat and learn how to do a squat, um, maybe they can't do a regular squat, I'll figure out a way for them to be able to do that and to utilize the parts of their body that are necessary for that. Um, what else? In addition, I am director of operations for a nonprofit called Synergy of Empowered Women. So it is a nonprofit to basically help women work for themselves to find what they're looking for excuse me, what they're looking for um, in terms of career, or whatever it is that they want to do with their life. If they're missing any skills that they need, if they would like to learn things, like whatever that could be, whether it's learning some computer programs or anything like that. We used to, before the pandemic hit, have classes at like Microsoft in North Carolina, or we just, wherever they're based in North Carolina, I'm in Ventura County, California, but so that's where they do their classes and live offerings. Some are online. I offer fitness to anybody who participates in the organization also. Um, gosh, what else? I did recently graduate from Arizona State in December, and I did pass the NBC board exam in December as well. And so I'm just kind of trucking along, doing what I can. And I do all of this besides, with Karen's like amazing mentorship. Um, I used to be obese, and I had gestational diabetes twice. So I was not on a healthy path several years ago. And so, like, this all started just when I was caring for my grandmother. I used to care for her. Um, at 80 years old, she had a walker. She was very poor health. And we see a lot of people that are 80 years old right now who are like running marathons. And then I saw my grandmother, and I just thought, my gosh, there must be a better way. There has to be. And then, me being in the health that I was at that time, I thought, no, I have to change this, because this is not how I want to be. So that is how I kind of started. And then everything else just sort of, it's like a snowball effect, one thing and then one thing and then one thing. So boom, that's kind of a little background about me. Um, so feel free to ask questions after. Okay, so now, um, I know Earth Day was just a few days ago, and I mean, there's so many things that, like, the environment is everything around us. Um, it's basically circumstances. I think it's even like the definition of our environment is like objects, conditions that surround us, something like that. I think that's like the actual dictionary definition, but that's truly what it is. And so, I mean, there could be a million things I could have chosen, and I decided to do something a little closer to home today, just because I know that we're on limited time, and something that most people like, well, I think, um, is the chemicals that are released when we eat fried foods. Does anybody know about this? Anybody? Raise your hand, say something. Karen, what do you know
Sure,
about fried
yes.
food?
Yeah, I do. I know about the heterocyclic amines that are formed when you're grilling stuff, and also they form when you're frying. But I want you to tell us.
Okay, well, here I am. Well, I wasn't sure, some people kind of know. Um, so in food, acrylamide is actually something that is released. It's a chemical, and it's really used in the manufacturing of like papers and dyes and like industrial products. However, when foods are cooked at high temperatures, like when you're frying or baking them, or even roasting a few different foods, like potatoes, for instance, that can create a chemical called acrylamide. And that's actually a major source of this chemical. Um, that chemical is also found in cigarette smoke, believe it or not. It's kind of funky. Um, but what happens is that foods that are cooked at high temperatures, the sugars, like glucose and fructose, they react with the free amino acids, and that is what forms the chemical acrylamide. It's called the actual reaction is the Maillard reaction. It's French. And basically that's what contributes to the aroma and to the taste and the color of cooked food. So like the actual flavor of, like, I don't know, burnt toast, that slightly overdone taste. And acrylamide is one of the like hundreds of chemicals that can form. So basically, these chemicals, yes, they are like cancer causing, things like that. I know there's a lot of research that needs to be done still about like how acrylamide affects our bodies, but let's see. To reduce exposure to this chemical, um, you can fry foods at less than 338 degrees or lower. So, like, I know we love fried foods. Every once in a while, I'm guilty of this cancer-causing agent too, but I love it. Um, you can do things like to just to reduce this chemical, basically this free radical that's happening. You can cook foods to like a golden yellow um, rather than that golden brown color. So just slightly under, and that would reduce the chemical that's reduced. And I know we like French fries. I like French fries. I don't know. If you're cooking potatoes, you can cook potato slice. You can soak them in water for like 15 to 30 minutes before you fry and or roast, and that just sort of helps clear out some of the sugar from the potatoes. So that's one thing. Um, who, so I'd like to know then who likes fried food? And is this something that you knew about? I honestly didn't know about this.
There's been a lot of talk about air frying in these last, year or so. Um,
Hmm.
so, what is the correlation between air frying and what you're talking about?
I'm really glad you asked that because I looked into that. So, on some levels, air frying, yes, it is healthier because you're not using like all the fats and the oils and things like that. Um, And with air frying, yes, it works basically, you use a tiny bit of oil, but for the most part, you're circulating hot air around food, right? To make it like, give it that like crunchy, crispy type of exterior. And it's touted as like a healthy alternative to deep fried foods, of course. Um, the thing is though, yes, it does cut the fat content. However, the air fryers typically cook foods up to about 400 degrees. And so you're still going to have the chemicals released. So it's kind of like you give and take a little bit on the air fryer. So I would say probably a reduced, like I don't have an air fryer. This is all research that I have done, like evidence-based research. I've been considering getting an air fryer, but I've been kind of looking into it for that reason. It's just that I don't know if it's an actual better alternative. It sounds nice and everything, um, but still. Um, so I would say if you do like fried foods, it can help with weight loss, but it won't like because you're not using as much fat, but you may not be able to get away from the chemicals that are released in some of the foods. Um, but it's definitely a help because there's about 9 calories in every gram of dietary fat. So you are reducing quite a bit that way. Did that kind of answer your question, or were you looking for something a little more?
So, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is because you're still using some oil and it's at a high temperature, then it's kind of a give or take. However, if the air fryer doesn't use oil, so in other words, it's more of a convection style, would that
Hmm.
make a difference?
The yeah, I mean it does reduce that chemical substantially. And it's probably about 90% of the chemical is reduced so that you're not consuming quite as much. The fat
So,
content, though, like when we fry food, like if we're going to make chicken strips, we would just put them in the oil.
mhm.
So then you've got it kind of like a double, you've got the fat, unless you're cooking with like olive oil, which still it's, you're still adding. the fat to your diet if you're looking for like, there's so many levels like that, that are going on here. Um, but the fat and calories, if you're looking to overall reduce, the air fryer would be better, and you're getting a lot less of that acrylamide chemical reduced in the food.
So in essence, it is use no oil, air fry convection style. So in other words, it's not going to be your crispy fried chicken, but it'll be a
No.
fried chicken.
Yes. Yes, I've really been looking into air fryers also because they just sound so wonderful. Like you can dip everything in like some, here I am, like the fitness person going, I really like to dip my food in in batter and then fry it. But every once in a while, like I will do that. Um,
Uh, I'm not a spokesperson, but if anybody's looking for a different type of cooking device, I invested in it's Instant Omni Plus. So it's got like 11
ooh,
different features. It's
hmm.
fantastic. So I I have a small kitchen. I gave up our microwave, so we have no microwave, and that's all we use for everything. Like I can bake bread in it, I can air fry, I can bake, I can toast, I can dehydrate, I can rotisserie,
Oh wow.
I can proof bread. So I've proofed my bread, I've baked my bread, I've baked pizza in it, toasted bread, air fried whatever you want to air fry without any oil because it's all
Ooh.
convection style. Um, I haven't rotisserie yet, but it's fantastic. So there's a lot of different types of these all-in-one type of oven type of things. Um, but through all of what I was looking for, it was like the best price, and it had more than the features that I probably will possibly ever use. So anyway, that's my little. Someone can give me some money for that little advertising. Cool.
Okay, well, sold. Um, and so they're made, so that's the same company as the Instant Pot. What are they called? Duo or something like that?
Yes. So it's the
Okay.
same brand as Instant Pot. So I
Hmm.
guess Instant Pot has expanded their product line. And it's funny. I mean, I'm kind of old, so I remember way back when. Janice is shaking her head. So okay, so Janice, you probably I don't know if you ever remember. Gosh, what were they called? They were like these big, like oven things. When I say big, I mean relatively speaking. But
Crock pots?
no. You could rotisserie, and it was like you could only buy it off of like you see them on television, and then you dial the 1-800 number, and then I forget what the brand is called. I think it had somebody's name, some guy's name on it. And I remember, oh gosh, 20 plus years ago, my husband was like, "Oh, we need to get that," and I thought he was kind of silly. I mean, we would rotisserie chicken in it and do some other kind of rotisserie types of things. But it's kind of like this Instant Omni Plus is like the super upgraded version of it, but not instant. I mean, not Instant Pot brand. The one that I used to have way back when. But anyway, it was
Wow.
fantastic.
It sounds like you're talking about like a Jack LaLanne kind of thing,
Probably,
or
but it wasn't him. But it was one of them
yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I'm sure if once we get the fairs back, you might see something like that again. We'll have people selling those at the fairs. But that's I really appreciate your input on the I just looked it up while you were talking. The input on this gosh, what is it even called? The
Instant
Omni.
Omni
Okay.
Plus. Yeah.
The
They have
Instant
two different
Omni.
models. The Plus has like 11 features, and I think the Instant Omni has like 8 or something. I don't know. Something like that. And there might be like
Huh.
a $50 to $80 difference. Something. The high end one is called Breville, the Breville
Hmm.
brand, but that's like
Hmm.
100 to $150 more. So
Wow.
anyway,
Yeah, and so the only issue about the cooking anything over a certain temperature is that you're going to have, I mean, if it gets really like crispy or browned, you're going to have more like free radicals basically released. So that's why we try to look for cooking our foods under a certain temperature in order to not release as many of the free radicals. So under 338 degrees is where we kind of want to keep foods and we cook them. Sometimes you can't though. You do have to cook foods so that they're done and, not like harmful if we eat them raw or something. Um, but that's just, you see the extra toasty Cheez-Its. I don't know anybody who doesn't like Cheez-Its. I'm sure somebody doesn't like them, but they make extra toasty Cheez-Its. And so what they're doing is they're cooking them at a higher temperature so that they're like brown. And literally that flavor that you get, that overcooked flavor is called a Maillard reaction. And that's the chemical, literally that's the chemical reaction that happens when the amino acids um, and the sugars in the carb give that give like when they interact, boom, that's what you get. That flavoring and that like I don't know, the brown flavor, the cooked brown flavor. So we just have to be careful about, when we're eating something. And it's so hard like to be careful because there's so much out there. Every time we overcook or we, you know, do anything, there's always a reaction or a thing. So it's kind of like, wow, I can I not like have a barbecue or can I not cook? Well, yes, but just remember that, try to eat foods high in antioxidants to help you out and sort of balance yourself out. Um, so I'm going to look into the Omni. See, I'm going to get my cook on. Um, so the next thing I wanted to just kind of touch on, and I'm just touching on these, and again, I know we don't have a lot of time, but it's just something to think about, like when we're eating and drinking our food and we're going out in our day. Um, everybody knows about, I think everybody knows about drinking water. We all need it. Our bodies are made of about 60%-ish or so, with lungs being the majority holder of our water at about 83%. Brain and heart set like 73, skin is like, 64. And I mean, we need water. Um, water regulates our body temperature, it helps flush waste out, things like that. It also serves as shock absorber for brain, spinal cord, even fetus. And of course, water helps lubricate our joints. All right. But there's also a lot of junk in drinking water. And some of the things basically are like arsenic, and that's a human carcinogen. Unfortunately, it's associated with like skin, like lung, bladder, kidney, liver cancer, things like that. Now, those aren't the only things, but that's some of them. Sometimes water can contain lead, um, and the cause that's one of the causes of behavioral and developmental issues in children and cardio and kidney problems. And of course, there's pesticides in water, and some of the ways that you even get those things is by like corroded water pipes, hazardous if you live near a hazardous waste site for some reason. Of course, pesticides and fertilizers. We've heard a lot about different companies with using their pesticides that are very harmful. I think Monsanto, is that correct? That was one of them. I don't use any bug spray in my house, so I don't know. I use like lemon and
Monsanto.
pepper and Monsanto, thank you. And of course, if you're near a sewage and like a food processing waste plant, that can also, all of those places can leach harmful chemicals into water. Um, of course, a way to curb that is to have your own like filtration system in your home, um, just buy bottled water, which I know can be expensive, but you can purchase like the 5 or the 3 gallon like jugs from your local grocery store, and just bottle your own. And if you're unable, of course, you could always have it delivered if that's something. Um, and I know there are still, like, surprisingly, there are still quite a few places in just in the United States, and obviously this is a world problem, but only speaking of the United States, I know there are a couple of cities that are still going through a major water crisis, like Flint. So, and water, so food and water, water is just one of those things. It's very easy to pick up chemicals. Like, for instance, old buildings. I'm in an old building right now, and I would never drink the tap water. Not even my plants like it. It's kind of weird. Like plants are very sensitive to that thing, and I don't know if anybody knows that. But if you were to give a plant like a bottled water, and I've been doing this experiment in my home for about 2 years now, where I give the plant some like tap water from my tap, and then I give them bottled water. Um, and I do this for about 3 months at a time. I can see that the plant thrives better with the bottled water, even though we there are minerals added for taste in bottled water usually. Um, I've just noticed that they do better. So there's that. Um, does anybody here ever notice that? Do you drink your home tap water or do you drink bottled water? Like what does everybody in this group do? I'm kind of curious.
I live in Hawaii, so our
Oh,
water's pretty good from the pipe. Um, but I do use a filter. So I was thinking about, you were saying bottled water. So the difference between bottled in glass, bottled in plastic, because I've heard a bunch of different types of things with plastic bottled water because of the temperature differences that it goes through in transporting it from inception to the final consumer. What are your thoughts on that?
well, I know a lot of companies have switched to the BPA free plastic. Um, it's rare that, like, unless you're drinking sparkling water, I usually don't see, well, there's like Evian and things like that. Um, I have not heard of glass bottled water being an issue. I know that the plastic bottled water was an issue. But now that they've switched the type of chemicals that they manufacture their bottles after, it doesn't seem to be as much of a situation. Um, but rarely would I buy, like, I wouldn't, just because of the cost factor, I wouldn't buy water in a glass bottle. So the Voss and the Voss water, things like that, those are just like out of the question for me personally. I don't like it just seems so wasteful, you know, the waste from those glass and plastic bottles to our environment. It's ridiculous to me. So when I say bottled water, I just mean like I literally have a 5 gallon water and I just go and fill it up for $1.50 every 3 days or so.
Okay, from one of those machines, like, well, here in Hawaii, we've got them like usually at the grocery store.
Hmm.
You take
Hmm.
those big 5 gallon things and you stick it in the machine.
Yes. And I know that could be hard for some people. I mean, those are not light. Um, but I am kind of curious, what part of Hawaii do you live?
Oahu.
Okay, how beautiful. Lucky. Nice. I have never been, like, I've seen pictures of Oahu and I've never been there. I've only been to Maui. Um, and I noticed that people are like, they seem pretty health conscious in Maui quite a bit. So I imagine it's probably very close to the same where you are.
Yeah, I guess I would say so. I mean, each island has their own little idiosyncrasies, and also
Hmm.
we call it pigeon language. So if you're talking to a local, um, most locals probably wouldn't speak pigeon to a visitor, but but if you happen to catch a conversation between some locals on different islands, they're usually going to have a little different sound. So I guess maybe, I don't know, if you lived in the South in the different southern states, from what I've learned is there's a difference in sound from a Texan versus a South Carolinian versus Georgia, and so kind of similar in Hawaii. People on Kauai will sound different than people on Oahu, than people on Maui, and then people on the Big Island, and even on the Big Island. So Janice is going to go to the Big Island in May. So that's the one with the active volcanoes, and then you've got one side being the west side having Kailua Kona, and then the east side being Hilo. And those two different parts of the island, people will sound completely different. Anyway,
Wow.
trivia.
I just learned something. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. That's cool. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Um, and while you were chatting and telling us a little bit about where you live and all the differences, I took a look one more time at glass versus the plastic in water. And from what I can see, glass does not have any like single chemical that will like leach into water. So I would say that maybe glass is probably, I don't know, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist. I'm just, doing research and checking things out. And I mean, I don't really see that glass has an issue with leaking anything into water, but it's also really expensive, you know. So like a tall, one of the taller Voss waters might cost, $2.50, but then you could get, you know, 60 bottles of plastic water for maybe like 329 or 375 or something like that. Um, so you kind of have to pick and choose there
Yeah.
with
Hawaii,
and
a
that.
bottle of glass water or
Mhm,
Voss, which is
mhm.
delicious, but that would be like $6. And then if you wanted a case of bottled plastic water, like a 17-ounce case of, or a pack of 40 bottles,
Mhm.
that would be about $8. So
Wow.
come live Hawaii.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's like, how does that water get there? It probably gets there by boat,
Yes, it
unless there's,
does.
yeah. So then what do we have? Then we have the issue environmentally. Then we have the issue of the pollutants going into the air, which also affect our health, respiratory, and things like that. People that are asthmatic issues with like smog or just the junk that's put in the air by transportation and fossil fuels. So there we go. So it's amazing how, we like there's always a chain reaction that happens when we talk about like how our like what's going on in the environment, or if we're trying to change one thing, then there's still these other factors that are happening. So yeah, we're you know trying to eliminate the junk in the water and trying to drink good water, but then on the back end, how did we get the water? Well, we got it from the store in the bottle. Well, so I mean, there's always something. And I think that, basically, when it comes to taking care of ourselves and the environment, we just really hopefully try to just choose the best things. They may not always be, perfect, but, just the best ideas and the best choices that we can about what we're doing and what we consume and, how we obtain things. So, whether it's
Well
frying.
said.
Well, there you go. So whether it's frying food or, drinking water or down to our essential oils or something, there's always a process that has happened in order to get those items. And I think the more that we can just sit down and really take a look at those things, the better off we'll be. So and it just depends on where we live. Sometimes we don't have access to everything. Sometimes we don't have access to bottled waters, or we don't have access to special cooking things. It just depends on our situations and where we are. So there we go. That's
Thank
all I have
you.
for today. That's all I have. I know nothing else.
Oh, great.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that was wonderful. It keeps us thinking. That's my bird. That keeps us thinking. Uh, beyond what we do, close to our actions, and then it goes far and beyond. Um, I love water. It's, if I didn't, and what I decided to do is get a water purifying system to put into my house, but rather than having it throughout the house, I just had it going directly to my sink, where
Hmm.
it's a separate spigot where you get your drinking water, or if you want to cook, like for example, just I clean my vegetables and fruits due to bugs and parasites. That's the water I would use, but I don't use it to wash my house. I'll use regular water. But I have a
Right.
well, and there are 3 families that work off this well, and we don't pay a water bill. What we pay for is the electricity that pumps it to our house. So then it's up to each family if they want to put a water purifying system. But the one thing that I did, I caught one of my neighbors using Roundup, and I immediately discussed with them, are you aware of Monsanto being sued on Roundup? And they looked at me and go, no, we don't even know what's going on. So I educated them in a very nice way so that they could go in and finish their research. And now they're not using Roundup, because what it does, it leaches into your ground, goes down through the rocks, and it does get into your water system. The rocks do help purify a little bit, but
Hmm.
does it get rid of 100%? I don't think so. So,
No.
and you get your water tested by a local lab. I don't know how much it would cost, but you guys can all test your own water, take it to a local lab and have them tell you what your metals and all that is in it. So it's fascinating to know more about it. So then what we do is we fill up our water jugs. If you go to a store and buy one of those big 2-gallon things of cider that they put out, organic cider, empty it, clean it out, and then fill it up with your water and store it in your closet. So then if you have a emergency, you take it with you and put it in your car. It's great.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. It's funny, my tap water, and I don't know how long my building has been there in Ventura. No clue. But you can smell the chlorine in the water.
Um,
And so I don't like that, and I don't let my kids drink it. And now I don't even let my plants drink it. Like I've got these beautiful avocados from my dad's organic tree. Like he never watered the tree. It just grew. It like found groundwater somewhere, and it just gave these beautiful, like hundreds of beautiful avocados a couple of
oh,
times a year.
wow.
And
Well,
so, I mean, I've been growing the seeds from these avocados for years, and I'll tell you what, those avocados do not like tap water.
that is so
They
cool.
don't. They turn, you can tell because the edges of the leaves turn brown.
Okay.
And I thought it was, oh, sun. No, 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 no. Once it's changed out and started giving them tap water, they grew faster, and they like the leaves just like they're huge,
Honey,
so it's
great.
amazing. So you can imagine what's happening into your body if you're drinking that like gross water. Nope, no, thank you. So,
So,
so yes.
and there is a name for someone, and I don't know the name. You guys might know it, of someone who is a water taster, like a sommelier who does wine. Well, this is
Hmm.
I just found this out. It's something new. These people get paid, and they taste water, and different waters taste differently, and they can tell what's in it. It's amazing. They have to really have a good taste, I suppose, if you train yourself. But it's fascinating. I don't know where I came across that. I'll have to look out for that again. But I thought that was fascinating. It's like you go to a water bar, and you order different waters from different regions, and you pay for it, but they claim you could taste the difference because it comes from different mineral sources. It's fascinating.
You
So
know what? There's one in LA actually. Now I'm gonna go there.
There is definitely a difference in water because I know in Hawaii, each island, the water tastes different. I mean, I'm originally from the Big Island, and Big Island to me has the best tasting water by
wow,
far.
that's fascinating.
Hmm.
All right, so anybody
Wow.
have any questions for Sarah that you'd like to send out?
I wanted to add something, Sarah, and it's mostly related to the amines and the creation of byproducts of cooking processes, right? So it's a multi-dimensional issue. It's not only the one thing, right? It's not only the heat. It's also what you're putting the stuff into. So like dry, some of these cooking cooking components, right? It depends if you're
Mm-hmm.
exposing your food to iron,
Mm-hmm.
aluminum, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all of these are going to play a role in any exposure that we have to chemicals. So just
Yes.
the awareness of it is very important as it relates to us as health and wellness coaches, because we're not going to be able to pinpoint in every area. There's so many products
Yeah.
out there, but
Mm-hmm.
becoming a more informed consumer of the health is it's
Mm-hmm.
important for people and for us to promote that message, right?
Yes.
I looked into the Omni, Marissa, and some of the concerns of air fryers. It doesn't have it. They have addressed some of these issues that come up with the chemical byproducts of what the product is manufactured with. So it's very complex, and there's a lot of research out there, and a lot of it just indicates correlations, not necessarily causation. So we need to really be careful on how we read the research on
Mm-hmm.
it. But I mean, that's not to say that a lot of products are dangerous. I mean, there's a huge movement on removing BPA's from plastics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that it's more than a correlation. There are some causations.
There really is a lot out there, and I didn't even scratch the surface. Like one thing out of, so many. Um, but yes, I agree with you, and I appreciate that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, and also thank you so much for your very kind words. You
Ah,
touched my heart and made me, my eyes got watery. But I
ah,
remember your path, Sarah. I'm just happy to see you where you are now.
thank you.